Hey everyone, welcome back. So I'm just here in my Minecraft world. I'm going to be expanding my base, finishing off my farm, and while I do that, we're going to be getting into some seriously satisfying revenge stories tonight. Think of it as bedtime ASMR for people who love justice. The kind of stories that make you go, yeah, they deserve that. So sit back, relax, and let karma do the storytelling. I have been scrolling through Reddit for hours, picking the best ones. The kind that make you say, okay, maybe the universe really is fair sometimes. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's get cozy with a few tales of perfectly timed payback. Our first story comes from an anonymous user with the title reading, I got scammed at a local market, I did not let it slide. I don't normally post on here, but I was reading a story on how someone got scammed, so I thought I might share a personal story of mine. I was 19, broke, and working part-time at a hardware store while trying to survive my first year of college. My budget was so tight that grocery shopping felt like playing a game of financial Jenga. One wrong move and everything would collapse. There was this local market near campus that everyone said had great deals on produce. It wasn't a fancy supermarket, more like a family-owned spot with hand-painted signs, fluorescent lighting, and a faint smell of overripe bananas. The kind of place that sold oranges by the bag and tomatoes by the bucket. At first I liked it. The prices were good, the staff seemed friendly, and I could buy a week's worth of groceries for under $25. But after a few weeks I started noticing something weird. Every time I'd check out, the total seemed higher than what I'd calculated in my head. Not just by a few cents, by dollars. One day, I double-checked my receipt and realized what was happening. They were overcharging me. Not just me, either. I watched them ring up a bag of apples labeled $2.99 and charge $5.49 instead. I pointed it out, and the cashier, a woman in her late 40s named Martha, who always wore a fake smile and too much perfume, gave me a look like I just accused her of arson. She sighed dramatically and said, "Oh, must have been a system error." Then she refunded the difference, but her tone made it clear she thought I was being difficult. After that, I started paying closer attention, and the more I watched, the more I realized this was deliberate. They were bumping prices at checkout, especially for college kids and older folks, easy targets who wouldn't notice a few dollars missing. When I confronted the owner, a smug guy named Frank, who always stood by the register pretending to supervise, he brushed me off. "You're imagining things," he said. "Our prices are clearly labeled. If you don't like it, shop somewhere else." That was the wrong thing to say. See, Frank didn't know that I worked part-time at a hardware store, which meant I had access to a bunch of things that could make life mildly inconvenient for someone like him. So, I came up with a plan. Nothing illegal, nothing destructive, just a bit of poetic justice. The next week, I went to the market early on a Saturday morning. I noticed Frank had a brand new display of fruit baskets by the entrance. Hand-arranged, colorful, clearly meant to catch attention. Each one had a sign, fresh local fruit, $19.99. That's when my petty brain kicked into gear. I printed up some fake sale tags at school that looked exactly like the ones the market used. Same font, same size, same neon orange background. Except mine said, weekend special, $4.99. I went in, casually placed the fake sale tags on the fruit baskets, and then stood across the street with a coffee, waiting. Within 30 minutes, people started grabbing baskets like they discovered buried treasure. By the time I walked back in, the display was half empty, and Frank was arguing with 3 different customers demanding the sale price. He was red in the face, sweating, insisting that it was a mistake, while customers waved their phones showing photos of the sign. Martha, the cashier, was panicking, saying, "It's not scanning right," while the register beeped angrily. I pretended to be a regular shopper, quietly enjoying the chaos. Eventually, Frank had no choice but to honor the sale price for everyone because, according to store policy, which I'd conveniently read on their sign, if it's labeled, it's honored. By noon, they'd lost hundreds of dollars in overpriced fruit that suddenly became a bargain. I left with my own basket of apples, which I paid $4.99 for, fair and square. The next time I went in, weeks later out of curiosity, there was a new handwritten sign taped to the counter. Prices are as listed at register. Any tampering with store labels will result in prosecution. I couldn't help but laugh. I never did it again. I wasn't trying to ruin their business, just teach them a lesson about honesty. And sure enough, the next time I shopped there, everything scanned correctly. No mystery markups, no system errors. Maybe karma isn't always instant, but sometimes it tastes like a crisp $5 apple. This kid didn't just buy groceries, he bought a lesson in karma. One fake sale sign, and suddenly the market was having a fruit apocalypse. Frank and Martha went from scamming customers to holding a going out of business sale without even realizing it. Some heroes wear capes, others just have access to a printer and too much free time. Let's move on to our next story. This one comes from a 24-year-old female who got scammed by a mechanic. Stuff like this happens way too often, so let's hear how she got her revenge. I'm not usually the type to seek revenge. I'm the type to vent to my friends, drink a coffee, and move on. But sometimes someone pushes you so far that moving on turns into strategic retaliation. That someone was Gary, a greasy-handed, smug mechanic who thought he could scam me because I didn't look like someone who knew her way around a car. Spoiler alert, my dad's been a mechanic for 30 years. Here's what happened. My car, a 2013 Civic that's seen better days, started making this awful rattling noise one morning. Nothing major, but it sounded like something was loose. I took it to a small shop near my apartment that had good reviews online. That's where I met Gary. He was charming in that fake used car salesman way, the kind that compliments your shoes while writing up a bill. I explained the noise, and he said he'd take a look. 10 minutes later, he came back shaking his head like a doctor delivering bad news. "Yeah, this isn't good," he said. "You've got some serious engine issues. I'd say you're looking at least $1,200 in parts and labor." Now, I may not be a professional mechanic, but I know enough to recognize when someone's lying. A loose heat shield doesn't cost $1,200. I told him I wanted a written estimate and that I'd call him after I got a second opinion. He got defensive immediately. "You won't find anyone cheaper," he said, "and if you keep driving it like this, you could blow the whole engine." I thanked him, left, and drove straight to my dad's shop 30 minutes away. Within 5 minutes, my dad confirmed what I suspected. It was just a loose bolt on the heat shield. He tightened it in 2 minutes. Cost free. That's when I decided Gary needed a taste of his own medicine. A week later, I called his shop pretending to be someone else, a student with car trouble and no clue what to do. I put on my best nervous voice and told him my car was making a weird knocking sound. He jumped on it immediately, saying it sounded very serious and that I should bring it in right away. Perfect. I brought the same car, same issue, but this time I loosened the same bolt again so the sound was back. Gary greeted me like he didn't even remember me, which made it even better. He checked the car, came back, and gave the same dramatic sigh. "Yeah, your timing belt's about to snap," he said. "You're lucky you came in when you did. Gonna run you about $1,300 to fix it." I kept my poker face. "Oh no, that's so scary. Is it okay if I call my dad? He's pretty good with cars." Gary smiled, clearly thinking he had this one in the bag. Sure, but I can't guarantee I'll hold the part for long. It's a busy season, so I called my dad, loudspeaker. "Hey Dad," I said sweetly. "Can you talk to the mechanic?" He says my timing belt's about to snap. My dad immediately said, "You mean the heat shield bolt? The one I tightened last week?" You could feel the air get sucked out of the room. Gary's face went pale. My dad didn't stop there. "Ask him why he's quoting you $1,300 for a $2 fix. Matter of fact, tell him your dad's the ASE certified mechanic who taught you how to check your own oil at 10 years old." Gary started stammering. Must have been a mix-up. Maybe the sound, different issue." I stared him down. "No, Gary. It's not a mix-up. It's a scam. People in the waiting area. We're watching now. One woman literally whispered, "Oh my God." I took a photo of his quote sheet, smiled, and said, "Thanks, I'll be reporting this to the Better Business Bureau." And to your Google reviews, that's when Gary's tone did a full 180. Wait, let's work something out. Free oil changes for a year. I can fix it now, no charge. Too late. By the time I was done posting my review, his shop's phone was blowing up with angry customers asking if he'd scammed them too. Within 2 weeks, his Google rating dropped from 4.7 to 2.1. A month later, a for lease sign was on his door. I didn't destroy his business. He did. I just held up the mirror. Now, whenever someone at work mentions car trouble, I tell them, always get a second opinion and maybe keep your dad on speed dial. This woman turned check engine into check yourself. Gary thought he was dealing with an easy mark, but he ended up getting his whole career towed. One phone call and his 5-star reviews dropped faster than his ethics. Some heroes wear capes. This one wears grease-stained jeans and a smirk. Let's move on to our next story. This one comes from a 32-year-old woman who found out her husband was cheating on her, and instead of screaming, crying, or throwing hands, she came up with a revenge plan. Let's hear how it all went down. The anniversary gift. He'll never forget. I'd been married to my husband Daniel for 6 years when I found out he was cheating. You always think you'll just know when something's off, but honestly, I didn't, not at first. We were stable, comfortable, even happy in that boring married people kind of way. Until one night, while cleaning out the junk drawer, I found a hotel receipt. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't cheap. At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe a business expense, but the date on the receipt, our anniversary. I didn't confront him right away. I needed to be sure. So I started paying attention. The late night client meetings, the sudden obsession with cologne, the locked phone that used to sit face up on the counter. Within 2 weeks, I confirmed what I already suspected. He was having an affair with a coworker. She was 27, single, and according to her Instagram, had a thing for older, successful men, which was hilarious because Daniel still used coupons at restaurants. I thought about confronting him immediately, but honestly, I was too angry to yell. I wanted him to feel it, the betrayal, the loss, the embarrassment. So instead, I started planning. Step 1, act normal. I kept being the perfect wife, made his favorite dinners, laughed at his jokes, asked about his day. The guilt made him even nicer to me, which made it easier to keep my cool. He probably thought I'd never find out. That's how smug he'd become. Step 2, financial prep. I quietly opened my own bank account, redirected my direct deposit, and started moving small amounts of money out of our joint account. Nothing big enough for him to notice. I also made copies of everything. Tax returns, pay stubs, his emails. If this went to court, I'd be ready. Step 3, the setup. Our anniversary was coming up again, and I decided that was the day he'd get his gift. I told him I booked a romantic weekend getaway at the same hotel where he'd taken her. I even acted like it was his surprise. He looked so touched that I almost laughed. When the day came, I let him think everything was perfect. Candles, champagne, the whole Pinterest fantasy. He went to take a shower, and that's when I made my move. I grabbed his phone. I'd learned his passcode months ago and took screenshots of every message between him and his mistress. The "I can't wait to see you" texts, the hotel confirmations, even the photos. I sent them all to myself, then deleted the email log so he wouldn't notice. Then I packed my bag, took the car keys, and left, but not before leaving my own little surprise. I had scheduled a series of emails to go out the next morning. One to his boss, one to HR, and one to his mistress's fiancé. Yeah, turns out she wasn't exactly single either. Each email included screenshots of their messages and photos. The subject line, "Thought you should know." By the time Daniel realized I was gone, his phone was blowing up. He called me 17 times. I didn't answer once. I filed for divorce that week. Since I'd gathered proof of infidelity and had documentation of our finances, I got to keep the house, half of his retirement account, and the car, the same one he used to drive to work meetings. The best part? He got demoted at work for violating company policy. She got fired entirely. A few months later, I sold the house, moved states, and started fresh. New job, new apartment, new life. I even got a dog. Every once in a while, I'll get a random email from Daniel. It's always some sad variation of, "I miss you. We could have fixed it." But honestly, he's right. We could have if he hadn't booked that hotel room. Now, every time I see an anniversary sale at a hotel, I smile. Because I already gave him the best anniversary gift he'll ever get. Consequences. This woman didn't just get revenge. She staged a whole Broadway production. Daniel thought he was booking a romantic weekend, but really he reserved a front row seat to his own downfall. She served justice, hot, cold, and with email attachments. Some people write love letters. She wrote R reports. Iconic. Alright, let's move on to our next story. This one comes from a 20-year-old guy who learned the hard way that blood isn't always thicker than crushes. His older brother stole the girl he liked, but instead of sulking about it, he plotted one of the most petty yet satisfying revenges I've ever read. My brother stole my crush, so I stole his pride. So for context, I'm 20 years old and my whole life I've always been in my brother's shadow. Ethan is 3 years older, taller, funnier, and somehow managed to charm everyone, including the girl I liked. Her name was Lily. We'd met in a study group during my freshman year of college, and she was the first person I actually felt comfortable around. We'd text for hours, grab coffee between classes, and she'd even joke that I was her favorite person on campus. So yeah, I thought we had a connection. Then one weekend, I invited her over to hang out, and my brother was there. He was home from grad school, helping my parents with some stuff. Within 10 minutes of meeting Lily, he turned on that Ethan charm, all smiles, teasing, and casual touching. She laughed at everything he said. By the end of the night, she was blushing. By the end of the week, they were dating. I found out because she posted a picture of them on Instagram. My brother didn't even bother to tell me. He just liked the photo and moved on. At first, I was crushed. I stopped talking to both of them for a bit. My parents kept saying stuff like, "It's just young love, and don't let this ruin your relationship with your brother." But honestly, it wasn't about Lily anymore. It was about how Ethan always took things just because he could. So, I decided to get creative. Ethan's a total show-off. He lives for attention, and the one thing he's obsessed with is his car. A silver BMW that he treats like it's made of gold. He'd wax it every weekend, park it diagonally to avoid scratches, and post videos of it on TikTok like he was auditioning for Fast and Furious, Suburb Edition. Lily, meanwhile, loved photography. She'd recently started an Instagram page for her artsy couple photos. I realized something. Ethan's ego plus Lily's obsession with social media could make for an interesting combo. One night, while Ethan was out, I asked to borrow his laptop for a project. He said sure, because of course, he trusted me. Big mistake. I went through his photo folders and found hundreds of pictures of his car. Different angles, filters, lighting tests. I uploaded them to a free stock photo website, tagging each one with phrases like silver BMW luxury car, royalty free. Within 2 weeks, his precious car was all over the internet, being used in memes, online ads, and one particularly cringy insurance commercial that said, "Drive safe, drive smart." When Ethan found out, he lost it. Apparently, one of Lily's friends sent her a meme of his car with the caption, "POV, you finance personality." She thought it was hilarious. Ethan didn't. He stormed into my room waving his phone, yelling, "Did you do this?" I just shrugged. Weird. Maybe your car is famous now. But that wasn't the end of it. I had one more step. I'd noticed Lily was planning a big anniversary photo shoot for them. She wanted to post it online with some poetic caption. I might have accidentally texted her from Ethan's phone when he left it unlocked, saying, "Let's wear something fancy but low-key, like black. I think it'll match your vibe better." Then I told Ethan, from my phone, that Lily said we should wear something colorful and fun like matching sweaters. So on the day of the shoot, Lily showed up in an elegant black dress. Ethan showed up in a bright green sweater that said "Cool Bro Energy." They looked like a Hot Topic ad from 2009. The photographer tried to make it work, but the photos were awkward. Lily didn't post a single one. After that, things got weird between them. They argued about communication and boundaries, and within a month they broke up. Ethan moped for a bit, then acted like he didn't care. I didn't rub it in. I didn't have to. Every time he saw someone repost one of his car memes, he'd mutter, "Not funny," and walk away. As for me, I never said a word. I just smiled every time that POV you finance personality meme popped up on my feed. And yeah, maybe it was petty, but for once, it felt really good to step out of his shadow, even if it was just to make sure he knew who cast it. This guy turned sibling rivalry into an art form. Big brother stole his girl, so little brother stole his dignity and his car's copyright. Now the BMW is famous, the girl is gone, and Ethan's out here looking like a lime green lost boy. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's just a quiet pove. You finance personality. Alright, let's move on to our next story. This one comes from a guy who learned that sometimes karma doesn't just come knocking. It shows up wearing a tailored suit. It's about a rich, smug bully who made everyone's life miserable, and how one of his old victims decided to even the score years later. And honestly, this revenge might be one of the most satisfying ones I've read in a long time. When I was 16, I went to one of those private schools where money mattered more than grades. Everyone drove something European, had parents who knew people and thought wearing designer clothes made them important. And then there was him, Chase Whitmore, the kind of guy who had a smile that could get him out of any trouble and a wallet that made teachers look the other way. He wasn't your cartoonish, in-your-face bully. He was the subtle kind, the one who could ruin your life with a joke that everyone laughed at but you. He called me Scholarship Boy, said it every time I walked past. It was technically true. I was on a financial scholarship, but he said it like it was a disease. He'd accidentally spill drinks on my notes, mock my thrift store shoes, and once, during a school assembly, told everyone that I was only there because my dad mowed the headmaster's lawn. People laughed. I pretended it didn't bother me, but it did. When graduation came, Chase's dad gifted him a brand new Mercedes in a trust fund. My parents gave me a used laptop and a hug. We went our separate ways after that. Or so I thought. Fast forward 8 years. I'd worked my ass off, graduated top of my class, and got into finance. Not glamorous at first, lots of long nights and coffee that tasted like burnt dirt, but I was good at it. Really good. Eventually, I started working in corporate acquisitions. My job, buying struggling companies and turning them around. And that's when karma decided to send me a LinkedIn notification. One day, while reviewing potential acquisition targets, I saw a familiar name in the company's executive list, Chase Whitmore, COO of Whitmore Outdoor Solutions. I nearly spit out my coffee. Turns out his dad's company was drowning in debt. Poor investments, overextended loans, and a massive PR scandal involving environmental violations. They were desperate for a buyer, and I happened to be on the acquisition team reviewing their case. Now, I could have just done my job and moved on, but something in me, 16-year-old scholarship boy, wasn't ready to let go. So I dug deeper. During due diligence, I noticed Chase had been quietly moving company money into a consulting firm under his own name. Classic embezzlement move. Nothing huge, just enough to think he'd get away with it. I documented everything, every transfer, every shady expense, every falsified invoice. Then I pitched the acquisition to my boss as a high-risk, high-reward opportunity. He loved it. Within 2 months, we bought the company for pennies on the dollar. On my first official visit to the new headquarters, Chase came strutting into the boardroom like he still owned the place. He didn't recognize me at first, not until I introduced myself. "Good to see you again," I said. "Scholarship boy." The look on his face? Priceless. His fake grin twitched like his brain was buffering. I told him I'd be conducting a full financial audit before restructuring the leadership team. He tried to play it cool, but I could see the sweat. A week later, I walked into his office with printed reports of his embezzlement, every page, every transaction highlighted and dated. I didn't yell, I didn't gloat, I just placed the folder in front of him and said, "You can either resign quietly or I can forward this to corporate legal. Your choice." He didn't even try to deny it, just sat there, deflated like someone had pulled the plug on his ego. He resigned that afternoon. The next month, I got promoted to oversee the restructuring. His job, technically. His office became mine. I even kept his fancy espresso machine as a souvenir. A few months later, I ran into him again at a local coffee shop. No designer suit, no expensive watch, no Mercedes. He was working there as an assistant manager. He saw me and looked away. I didn't say a word, just left a $20 bill in the tip jar and smiled. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like scholarship boy. I felt like karma's accountant. And the books were finally balanced. This man didn't just get revenge, he filed it under assets. Chase wanted to flex his money, but he ended up flexing bankruptcy. Imagine laughing at scholarship boy in high school and then handing him your resignation letter 10 years later. This isn't just payback, it's financial poetry. Some guys buy companies to grow profits. He bought one to end a bully. Alright, let's move on to our next story. This one comes from a 26-year-old woman who got scammed by her own drug dealer. Yeah, I know, nothing good ever starts with, "So my dealer messed up." But instead of letting it slide, she decided to teach him a lesson he definitely didn't see coming. Let's get into it. He scammed me once, but I got the last laugh. A couple years ago, I went through what I call my questionable decision phase. Basically, I was young, dumb, and thought buying from random dudes off Snapchat was a safe idea. Spoiler, it wasn't. My dealer, let's call him Kyle, was one of those guys who thought he was a criminal mastermind, but still lived with his mom. He had the confidence of someone who's seen Breaking Bad too many times and the IQ of a potato. At first, everything was fine. I'd text him, he'd deliver, easy exchange, nothing sketchy. But after a few months, Kyle started getting cocky. Prices went up, quality went down, and suddenly, every $40 eighth looked suspiciously like $25 worth of disappointment. I tried to let it slide until one night he flat out ripped me off. I sent him $200 for a bulk deal. Yeah, I know, big mistake. And then he ghosted me. No replies, no delivery, just left me unopened. I texted, I called, I even messaged him from a friend's phone, and he still ignored me. That's when I decided I wasn't letting this idiot get away with it. I didn't want to call the cops because, let's be honest, explaining that situation wasn't going to make me look great. So, I did the next best thing, social engineering. See, Kyle ran his little operation through social media. He'd brag about deals, post photos of cash, and act like he was some local legend. His ego was enormous, and that was the weak spot I could use. Step 1, I made a fake account. Profile picture, some random girl from Pinterest. Username, @blondeb by 420. I filled it with generic stoner aesthetic posts, neon lights, incense, weed memes, the usual. Then I DM'd him like I was a new customer. He responded immediately. He was flirty, charming, and completely clueless. Within a day, he was offering me discounts if I bought in bulk. I played along, building up trust. I even threw in some fake compliments like, "You're the only dealer I've met who actually seems smart." It physically hurt to type that. Step 2. The setup. After a few days of talking, I told him I wanted to buy a big batch, way bigger than usual. I said I was hosting a party and wanted to impress people. He was practically drooling. I told him I'd pay half up front through Cash App and the rest in person. He gave me his info without hesitation. I sent him $20, a small test, and then asked if he could front the product early since I'd already paid a deposit. He said yes, of course. The next day, I told him to meet me at this small park near my apartment. I watched from my window as this dude pulled up in his beat-up Honda Civic, waiting for a customer that didn't exist. I texted him, "On my way, be there in 2, then blocked his number. I wasn't done yet. Step 3, the finale. Remember how I still had his Cash App info? I posted his full username, screenshots of our messages, and his face from his public profile on a few local community groups. You know, the kind where people complain about stolen packages and missing cats. I captioned it, "Warning, this guy is scamming people out of money pretending to sell weed. Don't fall for it." Within hours, people were roasting him in the comments. Turns out I wasn't the only one he'd scammed. Half the town jumped in like it was a digital roast session. Someone even tagged his mom, and that's when it got really good. His mom commented, "Kyle, we need to talk." By the next day, his entire account was deleted. I heard from a friend that he tried to start a new one, but couldn't get anyone to buy from him anymore. Apparently, people were even joking about him at local parties, calling him Cash App Kyle. As for me, I never saw that $200 again, but honestly, it was worth it. Watching him publicly implode was priceless. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even, it's about making sure they can't scam anyone again. And if their mom finds out in the process, that's just a bonus. This girl didn't just get revenge, she ran a whole undercover operation. Kyle thought he was Pablo Escobar, but he was really just Pablo. Embarrassment. She didn't need the cops. She had Facebook moms and community karma on her side. Nothing hits harder than a scammer getting tagged by his own mom. Case closed. Alright, the next story comes from a 27-year-old Marine who got pushed way too far by his drill sergeant, like to the point where this guy made it his personal mission to make his life miserable. But instead of losing it or fighting back, this Marine decided to get smart. And honestly, his revenge? Chef's kiss. So I joined the Marines when I was 19. Thought I was ready for anything. Yelling, early mornings, getting smoked until I couldn't move. I expected all that. What I didn't expect was a drill sergeant who hated me from day one. His name was Staff Sergeant Collins. And when I say this man had it out for me, I mean he practically woke up every morning thinking, how can I ruin this guy's day? I wasn't loud or cocky like the other recruits, which apparently made me a target. He started calling me choir boy because I didn't curse much. Every time something went wrong, didn't matter what, he found a way to blame me. Someone left a sock on the floor? My fault. We were 2 seconds late to formation? My fault. I swear, if it rained, he probably would have said, "Choir boy made God cry." He made me do push-ups until my arms gave out. Once, he had me running laps in the rain while everyone else stood under cover laughing. And look, I get it, boot camp is supposed to be tough, but this guy was going above and beyond in the worst way. Then one day, I hit my breaking point. He punished me for not locking up the gear shed. Except the thing is, he had the only key. I ran an extra 5 miles that day. My legs were jelly, and my body felt like it had been hit by a truck. But my brain was planning. See, Collins wasn't as slick as he thought he was. One night during maintenance duty, I noticed him taking one of the government-issued Humvees off base. I figured it was nothing until I started seeing him do it a lot. Weekends, late nights, random errands, all in a military vehicle. And here's the kicker, he never logged any of it. That's a massive no-no. So I started keeping track. Every time he drove off, I wrote it down. Date, time, direction, what he was carrying. I even snapped a few photos from far away when I could. It felt like I was in my own little spy movie. A couple weeks later, I casually mentioned something about it to a buddy in logistics. You know, just a friendly conversation about vehicle inspections and fuel logs. I didn't even have to say much. I just dropped a small comment like, "Weird how one of the Humvees racks up so many miles off the books." That's all it took. Next thing I know, there's a quiet little audit happening, and 2 weeks later, boom! We're standing in formation, and these two MPs roll up with a lieutenant. Everyone's dead silent. The lieutenant calls out, "Staff Sergeant Collins." Man, the way this guy's face dropped when he heard his name. Beautiful. They pulled him aside, said something about unauthorized vehicle use, and marched him off the field in front of the whole platoon. Nobody dared say a word, but every single person was watching. Turns out, Collins had been using military vehicles, fuel, and even equipment for his side hustle, moving furniture, picking up stuff for his girlfriend, that kind of thing. The audit nailed him. He was suspended, investigated, and eventually got dishonorably discharged. When the news hit the barracks, everyone acted shocked, but I could tell a few guys knew what really happened. My bunkmate just gave me this little smirk and said, "Guess karma runs on diesel." A few months later, I got promoted, not because of what I did, just because I'd been killing it in training. Still, it felt good. Funny enough, I ran into Collins months after I got out. He was working security at some strip mall, standing in the heat with a reflective vest on. He saw me, looked away, and I just walked past him like I'd never met him in my life. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet, methodical, and wrapped in paperwork. And the best part? I didn't have to yell, fight, or break a single rule. I just let him bury himself. I just made sure someone found the shovel. Mission complete. That's all the stories I have today. If you enjoyed that revenge batch as much as I did, consider subscribing as I read Reddit stories just like these every night. Anyways, take care everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.